Should it be episode 12?
Yes.
I just say the next episode. Alright, so welcome back to our next episode of Us PropertyLimBrothers. Now, we hope you like this new logo that our guys have just designed. I think it looks very sleek. And today we're going to answer a very interesting question. This comes from an audience asking, should I sell one and buy two? Does that sound familiar? Now, this question has been on the top of the town because I think everybody has been seeing a lot of probably different kinds of adverts and stuff like that about people talking about selling their current property, whether is it a HDB or their current private, to sell one and then buy two properties. For example, it's like one property under the husband's name, one property under the wife's name. Now, this comes from an audience that has this specific scenario. Let me just read out a scenario to you. Both husband and wife, they are currently age 35. Husband earns $10,000, the wife earns $8,000 a month. Both are employed and they intend to actually sell off their current property and then buy one resale 3-bedder under the husband's name. Budget for that 3-bedder at the suburban area is about 1.2 million. For the wife, basically the wife is earning $8,000 a month. They're intending to buy a $1 million property, probably a 2-bedder new development under the wife's name. Basically, that's their plan. And so the question is it wise to sell off one property and then to buy two properties itself, right? So this question will depend on a lot of consideration, because firstly, I want to ask back these few factors of consideration is because number one, what is your risk appetite? Property investment is a huge ticket item. Of course, a lot of people like to own property, especially in Singapore and Asia, because property is brick and mortar. Singapore is land scarce. There's just so much land available. Population is increasing. I mean, by year 2030, we'll hit probably 6.9 to 7 million based on government's projection. Thus, having a very solid brick and mortar property as a form of own stay and a form of investment is really what a lot of people aspire to have. But firstly, what is your strategy of owning two properties? That's the first question that I would like to put forth to you. Have you actually planned out your strategy? What is your risk appetite? And do you actually intend, or do you have the ability or projection that you can at least hold it for mid to long term? Because if you're coming in with a very short term approach, then of course the risk is high, because what if after a couple of years, 3 to 5 years, the appreciation that you were hoping for doesn't happen? Are you prepared to hold your property for the long term, especially for your second property that you intend to buy? I mean, some people, they wanted to buy two properties, one for own stay, one for investment, but probably the second one is more of a mindset whereby they want to come in and buy something, and then after 3 years of the seller stamp duty period, and they want to sell it off immediately. But if you have that kind of mindset, then my question to you is, what if after 3 years that property didn't appreciate? Then what are you going to do with it, right? Are you prepared to rent it out while waiting for the appreciation to happen? Are you prepared to hold it for long term and mid term? And what if the economy changes or interest rates were to increase, which then affects your monthly mortgage? Have you actually factored all this thing into it already? Of course, there are some other consideration points as well, but let me just probably bring out the numbers so that it's easier for you to visualize. So for example, based on this scenario, the husband earns $10,000 a month. I assume that it's a family, and this family intends to buy a resale 3-bedder for their family stay. Budget is 1.2 million, which then means that your installment is about $3,600 a month. So assume that you are an employee. You can use about $1,200 to $1,300 per month from your CPF contribution in your OA account to finance the installment. So from $3,600, $1,200, $1,300 from your CPF, then probably another $2,300 plus, which means that you have to top up in cash. You also have to factor in the maintenance fee for this property. So let's assume the maintenance fee is $350 in cash per month. So it means that you have to come up with about $2,650 to $2,700 per month for your own stay property, right? And then the second one is under the wife's name. Now, wife earning $8,000 a month, want to invest in the new launch project, $1 million, 2-bedder, Now, when this property TOPs and hits its statutory completion, the full installment based on current interest rate, let's say at 2.5%, it will be at about $3,000. Assuming the wife is an employee, the wife can also use about $1,200, $1,300 from CPF. And you have to top up about $1,700 in cash per month. But let's say that you manage to rent out this property when it TOPs at $2,500 per month to a tenant. So your $1,700 top up in cash, $2,500 receivable in rental, that will net you a positive $800 in cash. Because over here, actually you are using your CPF contribution and your rental income, which then nets you $800 per month. But of course, you also have to factor in the maintenance fee. So let's assume that maintenance fee is $300. So your net receivable here would then be $500, which you can probably then save it up or use it to pay for part of your own stay, so-called monthly installment expenses and stuff like that. These two properties are definitely manageable based on your current income level. I will of course then ask you to also refer back to our investor series, where there's an episode where we talk about the affordability and sustainability of having property investment. Because we all, as Singaporeans, we have to of course take into consideration a lot of factors. If you have kids, your kids' education, do you have a car loan right now? How much are you paying for your car installment? How much disposable income do you need to support your parents, or to put aside for savings, or put aside for rainy days? And what's your personal expenses per month to sustain your family, right? And of course your insurance policies and stuff like that. So there's a lot of all these kind of consideration factors that I think we need to be prudent about before you actually invest in two separate properties. Everybody now, they're buying like two properties under husband's name and wife's name. The main purpose is because this will then be the first property for the husband and first property for the wife, so you can just pay the normal buyer's stamp duty for both. But end of the day, I think prudency is also very, very important. So some consideration factors then to advise you upon will be, have you also considered both sides maintenance fee? Because end of the day, if this is for own stay, maintenance fee in the condo is normal. Everybody has to pay. You use the facilities, pay for the parking. Plus, of course, your investment property, if it's a new one, then my question is that this investment property, after 3 to 4 years when it TOPs, if let's say the appreciation of the property is not there, is not high enough, then are you then willing to use this as a rental vehicle? So you must be prepared for that as an investor. And of course, some other questions is that, have you also factored in the property tax that you have to pay for both ends? And this property, if you were to rent it out, you have to then consider some other costing as well. Like you need to furnish the property, you need to repair the property as years goes by, because your tenant will also feedback to you that some things are spoiled and stuff like that. And your second property, what we usually advise our clients is that this cannot be an emotional kind of purchase, because this purchase definitely has to have certain check boxes that are being ticked off. You have to probably invest in a property that's easily tenantable, where there's existing tenants pool, easy to rent out, your vacancy period is short. It definitely has to be in a place where the commercial clusters are, so tenants usually like to stay near to the place that they work to cut down traveling time. Are there facilities that the tenants will be attracted to? Do you foresee that in, let's say, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years time, if you really want to sell, is there a possibility that you can easily exit the property? So there are some of the factors that you definitely need to consider when you buy into this second investment property. And we should have an episode where we talk about some of the factors to consider when you buy a property to rent out itself. You can catch that episode in the investor series as well. I think definitely the rental numbers has to make sense as well. So do look through the factors that I've just mentioned. If let's say you really love the two property kind of investment portfolio, it's definitely doable. But of course, at the same time, prudency is also something that a lot of people might miss out on. So the last question is that, if you were to own two, are you prepared in the event if one of you loses your job? Do you have enough buffer savings to sustain the installment? And what if one person loses a job and you need like 3, 4, 5, 6 months to find another job? During this period, do you actually have buffer savings for both ends of installment? Right, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. See you soon.